Hi, and welcome to this week's Three Legs, Four Wheels F1 podcast. It's Paul here with...
Sean.
Chris.
Lee.
There was a bit of a delay there. I thought you'd forgotten to come with us to the recording this week. Back after a week off and back on schedule again. Really sorry about that. About being a little bit messy over the last few weeks, but real life and work kind of got in the way. But that project I was working on is now finished, and I think I've got Monday nights free again.
Yay.
So we missed an entire...
At least this week.
So we missed an entire race review last week, so Sean's going to sum up Portugal very quickly.
Yeah, it was Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen, and some loose grids, and I think that was about it.
And Carlos Sainz led.
Oh, he did? I'd forgotten all about that.
Yeah, Sainz led the race for a little bit.
And Kimi was involved at the start.
Yeah, 9 places on the first
Something
lap
like
or something. Like it's a long time ago and we've all slept since
I
then.
think it held my attention at the time, but I don't really remember a great deal more.
Yeah, that'll do. Right.
I am the same.
Yeah.
Imola then.
Imola was better than Portimao for me, I think.
Oh, I don't know.
It might just be that it was more recent.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. That's what it is. It was more recent. I think Lewis Hamilton was almost correct when he said it was going to be a boring race and hardly any overtaking would happen after the first corner. It'd be pretty processional, I think, were the words that he used.
Well,
so thank you for listening, Lewis.
He wasn't wrong.
Danny Kvyat with some good overtakes, though. There were a few. Ricardo, I think, did a couple.
There were a few overtakes.
Yeah, smattering.
Some of them not even under DRS.
Yeah, I've seen some people say that it wasn't really get your words out, Christopher. The cars didn't do the circuit the justice that it deserved because the circuit's a lot better than that. It's just these Formula One cars that are really difficult to follow each other with. Made the circuit look worse than it actually is.
Yeah, I should go back there in 2022 once they've fixed the cars.
I'm up for that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be against it with cars that can follow. I mean, it only took Lewis about 5 laps to say that you can't follow around here.
Yeah, something like that. But he was saying that, beforehand anyway. After qualifying, he pretty much said that, didn't he?
What do we think to the experimental 2-day format? I mean, obviously they had to run it as a 2-day weekend for practicalities because they couldn't get there from Portugal and set up on the Thursday.
It didn't seem to make any difference, did it?
No.
To drivers.
Yeah,
No.
I mean, simulator technology now you can learn a circuit when you've never even been on the same continent as it. And
yeah, it worked, but I mean, we were kind of forced into the 2-day format at Nürburgring, weren't they? So we had a taster of it already.
Yeah, that is true.
But having the 90-minute session and then straight into quali, it just sort of there were no sort of like surprises, were there? Let's be honest. Nobody was surprised at what happened.
I think Racing Point were the big surprise in qualifying, weren't they? Because they both went out in Q2, which I think was a bit of what's happened there? But otherwise, yeah.
It seemed to affect Stroll badly. Because he was back to doesn't deserve to be on the grid, Stroll, this weekend.
Very true.
Yeah, do we need to? Should we say it now about the? We've all seen a video of Stroll going full pelt past the marshals.
Yeah, that was scary.
Yeah, at Imola, where we don't really need any more sort of bad memories of to happen for the first time in 14 years. Could we not have any incidents, please?
Was that before? Had he already hit a crew member by that point?
I think the Marshals was before the crew member, I think.
Oh, right. So he was just getting his eye in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because he blamed the brakes for being cold, didn't he? When
no one else nearly run over there, Jackman.
Yeah.
Yeah, I missed that because it was under the safety car. I had to take a very quick comfort break.
Yes, dizzy pits under the safety cars.
Break.
We found
Are you a
out.
Formula One driver now, Paul?
It wasn't Paul's comfort break. It was Dizzy doing a big stinky shit in the middle of the race.
Okay.
Yeah, she decided to pit under the safety car. That's killed that one.
Yeah. Well, no. It was just Cats stink most of the time. Yeah, I try to ignore my cat when she does anything like that.
It's hard to ignore it.
Yeah.
It's a shame my old laptop died with the outtake of you complaining about Lee's cat at the start of one show.
That was in the same room, though. That was like feet away. From what? Oh, my God. Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. You're right about Stroll. It was oh God, what's he doing there? And
the thing is, he approached lapped cars were told that they could overtake, weren't they, for the marshals? And then, sorry, not for the marshal, for under the safety car. When they came speeding past the marshals, Raikkonen slowed down because he saw there were double waved yellows, clearly indicating another incident, whereas Stroll did not. And somebody on Twitter has done the time deltas, and Raikkonen slowed by 7 seconds. Lance Stroll was only 1 second slower than his fastest sector through that sector.
Wow.
It's like, does he think if he's told he can unlap himself and rejoin the back of the train, does he think that then the double wave yellow doesn't apply? Because it does.
His radio message from his engineer told him to catch the back of the pack up as soon as possible. So he wasn't told about it on his radio, but he did come across those
The
double wave yellows.
That's the thing. Possible includes factoring in the double waved yellow. It doesn't mean ignore.
Absolutely,
yeah, he's not grown up too much, has he? Right, should we go from the back?
We can do, yeah.
Right, we'll start
the traditional way.
Start with Red Bull.
They strangely were the worst team of the race.
Yeah, it all imploded very quickly for them, didn't it? Like, it was fine. Verstappen had got past Bottas, seemed to be going quite well. Albon was a bit down the order,
about sixth.
It was in a solid points place, and then in the space of a lap or two, nah. In fact, it was the safety car, wasn't it? 'Cause it was Verstappen who brought out the safety car, and Albon spun at the restart.
I mean, what happened to Verstappen was just pure bad luck. Anyone can blow a tyre.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was racing really well, given that Bottas was carrying what looks like a piece of Ferrari. I don't know if anyone's seen that.
I think they have officially blamed Ferrari.
Oh, they did on Twitter pretty much straight after the race. Apparently, Mercedes didn't believe Bottas at first. And then they saw the damage at the
massive bright red bit of carbon fibre stuck in his car.
Yeah, then they saw the bit of Ferrari wing in the pit stop, and it's like, oh right, yeah, that'd do it.
Mm-hmm. Did he not say afterwards that this is getting a little bit ahead? But he said he saw it and then just drove straight at it for no apparent reason. Like, he saw it and thought, "Oh, I better not hit that," and then hit it.
Has he been taking Lance Stroll lessons? But yeah, Verstappen having a good one. I mean, he was looking racy at first, but Albon.
I was convinced him and Kvyat were going to end in the gravel because they just seem to be on the track, very close to each other, very racy. I just thought, nah, that's not going to end well.
Should they have been that close to each other?
No, absolutely not. I mean, Kvyat...
That's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah, Kvyat, this is the first time since Mexico last year that Kvyat has made it through to Q3. So yeah, he had no particular business being up there with a Red Bull, but yeah, for some reason...
Yeah.
For some reason he was, and then that restart.
Yeah.
Move of the day from Sainz avoiding him?
Yes, it was Sainz who avoided him.
Yeah, because he looked like he was going to go right and then suddenly realised that Albon was going around. I thought Sainz had hit him at first.
I think he thought Sainz had hit him. He said afterwards he thought he'd been tagged, and he definitely wasn't.
No, he wasn't tagged. He just put his. I think he'd just been passed, hadn't he? It looked like he put his foot down. To be honest with you, it's a really rookie mistake to stamp on the throttle just as you've been overtaken, because you're almost certainly going to spin, and that's exactly what happened.
This has to be it for Albon now, doesn't it?
It's very difficult to see.
Unfortunately. Yeah, I think so. He was told, wasn't he, before Portugal what he needed to do, and in both races he has not done it. He has not performed as Red Bull would want him to. So, it's a quick and harsh environment in that team, and it looks like he's probably going to lose his seat.
I think he's been given, he's been given quite the time, really, considering what we've seen from Red Bull in the past.
In
compared to Gasly, yeah.
In some ways he has, but it's happened at a time when I think Marco is now prepared to look outside the Red Bull program for drivers, because there are two perfectly capable and even on a bad day better than Albon on a bad day drivers that are going to be available in Perez and Hulk next season. And if this had been the Red Bull of 3 years ago, well, they'd have got Brendan Hartley in.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? When they binned off Kvyat, it was because Verstappen was doing well. When they got rid of Gasly, it was because Albon was doing very well. And actually, Gasly, you might argue Gasly would deserve a chance, but they've kind of had a look at him and didn't really seem to keen Kvyat the same. So they didn't really have someone ready to just drop in.
There was a lot of talk on Saturday. Christian Horner said, Pierre Gasly was never going to be part of our plans for next season, and we've discussed it with him. And Gasly came back and said they haven't.
Maybe they've discussed it with his manager, and his manager didn't pass on the message.
Do you think was it Patrick O'Ward? Do you think him not working out has kind of put a bit of a hole in Red Bull?
Possible.
Yeah,
because they were very much talking about him going directly into Red Bull at one point, weren't they? And bypassing Toro Rosso.
Because he went and did. I think he went and did Super Formula. Did kind of averagey there. They put him in for a couple of F2 rounds. Was it? I lost track. Was it towards the back end of last year or the year before? I lost count.
I think it was the year before.
And he was just useless. So it's like if he can't do F2, he can't do F1. So it's like, see ya.
So they gave him to McLaren.
This is true.
Because they've still got him in IndyCar for.
They've retained him for next year. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I'd seen it, but I wasn't.
It's done all right in IndyCar. Yeah. Nothing sort of super. Like, oh my god, look at that! But he's fine.
But yeah, I think with the being nobody there, because Gasly's not going to go back. Kvyat
was only ever filling a spot, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think he's completely done within the organisation again.
I think he's done with for Formula One in general, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he was lucky to get his second go, because he was one of the people. He didn't really deserve a second go, to be honest. If we'd never seen Daniel Kvyat again in a Formula One car, Formula One would have been no less rich.
Only because he doesn't have Russian backing.
Yeah, I mean, that would be the only time I think we'd ever see Danny Kvyat back in Formula One. And, he was chewed up and spit out by the Red Bull program, but at the same time, he probably deserved to be.
I mean, when he got demoted from Red Bull, he was terrible. Struggled the following season with Toro Rosso, and why not take a punt on Brendan Hartley and bring in Pierre Gasly up, because they were there and they were available. But it was the whole sort of Sainz joining Renault and everything just going all over the place.
Yeah, 4 drivers in 2 weekends or whatever it was. It was a bit of a musical chairs.
I mean, just think, Brendan Hartley's got Jolyon Palmer to thank.
Wow, what a rich talent of. Yes.
A lot of experience in that sentence. So, yeah, shit weekend for Red Bull. Also, shit weekend for Haas. We're replacing both drivers.
Have we really spoken about Max Verstappen? We've spoken about his retirement. I mean, he did really well to get up into second place.
Yeah.
And he's is he carrying the team, or is that car good enough to sort of fight a Mercedes when it's a little bit wounded?
I think he's out driving the car. It can fight a Mercedes at 80%. Now, but it can't fight Lewis Hamilton in a Mercedes when the car's running perfectly. Because, as we've seen countless times this season, that combination is unbeatable. And,
yes.
You know, I think second was definitely where he should have been. You know, he was there on merit, he was there on performance. That is the best that this year's Red Bull, the Honda engine, and Max Verstappen can do when Lewis Hamilton's leading a race in a completely undamaged car with tyres that are working.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, no slur on Verstappen whatsoever. You know, he's got the talent to put that car there. Other drivers may not have.
Yeah. I don't know how much of Red Bull is Albon being poor, making him look poorer, when Max Verstappen is actually a lot higher up, maybe, than the car deserves. I don't know. It's hard to tell.
I mean,
it's still a Red Bull, though, isn't it? Yeah, it's still the second best car on the grid, probably.
I mean, that's the thing now. We've got three tiers of F1. There's Mercedes, Red Bull, everyone else.
Yeah,
you know, up to last year and all the cheating, it was the top three teams and everyone else. Now Ferrari have fallen away.
Yeah, but
Mercedes have developed even further. Red Bull haven't moved on as much as Mercedes have.
And that's fair to say. Well, they've probably moved on about the same amount, but with the gap already being there, the gap's roughly the same.
But I think it's more pronounced now because there's only one team in the second tier, whereas it was Red Bull fighting.
Oh, right, yeah.
Red Bull fighting with Ferrari last year.
Yeah. Now, I can understand that.
Yeah, now Ferrari are, in fairness, a mid-grid team,
battling with Toro Rosso, AlphaTauri.
Yeah.
Depending on which driver you speak to, really, isn't it?
Sebastian
Vettel appears to have checked out, but I mean, we're not talking Ferrari just yet. But
qualifying behind a Williams and doing battle with Racing Point and AlphaTauri in the race.
Well, in the championship, they are pretty much neck and neck with AlphaTauri.
Yeah, and I think it's the second or third time now in a row that Russell out-qualified Vettel.
Yeah, that would sound about right.
Yeah, at least second, if not more. So yeah, I think that's why the gap's more pronounced, because there's less of a battle for that second best car, because we know it's the Red Bull.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah. Whereas, you know, if we had a Ferrari that was on form, you know, you could probably have Leclerc and Verstappen battling it like we saw in Austria last year.
Yeah, and that's just not there this year because Ferrari cheated.
They did. They did. But so very poor result for Red Bull, and also mathematically now not possible for them to win either championship.
Yes, it finished everything off, didn't it? Jesus.
Yeah, totally.
Right then, Haas. K-Mag DNF, Grosjean 14th.
Headache time.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he had a problem with his gearbox, which meant every time he shifted, his head was basically getting sort of snapped back, and just after 50 odd laps, gave up.
Grosjean wasn't changing gears; he was just pootling round at the back.
But not on the track, because he got a time penalty.
Oh yeah, he got that 5 seconds, didn't he? He actually crossed the line.
The race.
Yeah, he crossed the line ahead of Stroll and then instantly got demoted. Although Albon was that far back that Grosjean's penalty didn't affect him, even after 5 laps.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I'm really interested if Haas can pick themselves up with a couple of different drivers.
Well, it looks like it's going to be Schumacher and Mazepin next year.
That's where the smart betting is.
Now, that's interesting because I don't think Haas are a team that could take on 2 rookies and think that everything would be fine. You know, I don't think they're comfortable enough in their car to know that if they take on 2 rookies that they're going to get the feedback that they need in order to develop it properly.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was the thing last year, because they spent the entire 29 season not knowing how the car worked and how to get the best out of it when they've got 2 experienced drivers in there. And by all accounts, it's something that Reese said when he was on the show, the amount of feedback that Grosjean gives is absolutely massive.
Yeah, you would have thought with the likes of the Hulkenberg and a Perez being available, even if they want money, Perez has money, you would assume the experience, any sort of deficit to however much Mazepin is bringing, you would think would offset.
Yeah. But yeah, it just seems like they're shooting themselves in the foot again.
I wonder if they keep like Grosjean on as a reserve driver or something. I wonder if he'd be interested in that role.
Like test and reserve, or like a development driver or something.
Yeah, especially with because as we go into next year, where we've seen it so far where any driver can like have to miss a Grand Prix because of a positive test. You know, I think the teams going into 2021 are really going to have to start thinking more about who their reserve driver is.
We've seen with Ericsson as well, with Sauber, haven't we, that he has carried on being associated with team, but has still been able to go out and do full-time racing elsewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same with Soma Kubica as well, because he's done a full season in DTM while he's been the other Alpha reserve driver.
Very true.
I mean, the only thing you do, what you do in that situation, do you mandate it that, you know, a team needs a Formula One team is a 3-driver setup, and whoever they nominate as the reserve driver must have like half a session or a session of practice over the course of a Grand Prix weekend just to make sure, you know, he's ready to jump in the car at any time.
Make FP1 only for test driver.
Could do, yeah. Make FP1 great again.
Because I mean, they're getting next to no results.
Oh, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, they're getting next to no results, and they're going to get 2 guys in the car next year who have got very limited F1 experience. I don't think Mazepin has driven an F1 car since 2018. I think he missed out all of last year's.
That might be right, because he did Racing Point, didn't he? He did a couple of sort of young driver sessions with them.
Am I right in thinking Mazepin has done, or Mazepin, however you want to pronounce it, is on Williams, Racing Point, and now Haas? Is that correct?
Is he with Haas? I didn't think he was associated with anyone.
No, he's about to be associated.
Sorry, I'm with you. Yeah,
but he's done. He's done Williams as well, because he got bought a drive.
I think he was with Racing Point just when they sort of really, really needed money. Williams always need money, so I think he's just turned up a few times with here is Daddy's checkbook. Show me to the car.
Here are some rubles.
Yes,
in the car.
The ones.
So yeah, I mean he's got very limited experience. Mick Schumacher hasn't driven a current F1 car.
He tried to at the Nürburgring.
Oh yeah,
in fairness to him,
he's had a seat fitting and everything. But I think he's done a couple of tests in an older Ferrari, and of course the demonstration runs in his dad's. It's gonna be difficult for him next year, especially with the problems of buying the car in kit form, because the drivers aren't around there when it's being designed, and if they're just buying a car off the shelf and they've no idea what the styles of the particular drivers that they're aiming for are doing, you know.
But isn't that what
Mick
F2
Schumacher
is?
Mick Schumacher takes a long time to warm up to things as well.
We have seen this, haven't we?
Yeah, it took him 2 seasons to warm up to F3, but it was like halfway through his second season in F3 before he really came to life. He did not start this second season of F2 very well, and we even way back in the summer we were like, it's probably not going to be Mick Schumacher. But then he's like, all of a sudden he's picked it up again, sort of a quarter of the way through this truncated season, and just absolutely hammered it. And and got the points when everybody else has fallen away. So in Formula One, you've really got to, as some drivers are finding out now, you've really got to hit the ground running, and the pressure is only going to be maximised on Mick Schumacher purely because of his name.
He's also got the issue as well, if he needs those 2 seasons to get used to a car, his season 1, the season 2 car for him, very different. When all the new rules come in. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the only advantage that the two of them have got, Mazepin and Schumacher, is they're used to driving Dallara machinery. Because, of course, Dallara do the F2 car. So, with them making the Haas chassis as well, that's the only thing that they possibly could have going for them, that and Mazepin's dad's checkbook. But back to Imola, yeah, shit race for Haas.
Yeah. Don't really
we say
have
that
much
too
to
often,
add.
though, don't we? And going back to what Dan said on Twitter early this year, I think, possibly, Haas's problems don't start with their drivers.
No, I think Haas's problems.
Yes, we said for ages. Yeah, we said for ages that Haas, possibly do need to change a driver, maybe both of them, but not for 2 rookies. I mean, come on, like, what are you doing?
No, I think they need to change their entire business plan. Yeah, the way that the team works.
I think we've seen actually that we praised the Haas model at first because they were buying the bits off Ferrari. They came in, they were competitive, but as they've had to do more stuff themselves, it's shown that you need to have a certain level of like team building and mechanical experience. I think however it works. Maybe it's even just whatever's going on in the factory. There isn't quite enough in-house stuff by the looks of it.
Yeah, it's a good start for a bit for the Formula One business model, but it's not a good push on to continue doing it that way. I actually think that Gene Haas must be losing patience with the uncompetitiveness of the team.
Yeah, I agree.
Could Mazepin coming in be a sort of precursor to, what is it, Uralchem, buying the team?
We know they tried to buy Force India, didn't they?
Yeah.
And then kicked off because Stroll outbid them.
Even that, I don't think they're the answers. It's because I'm still waiting to see whether whoever bought Williams was the answer. Because I'm
not saying it's the answer, but it could be the answer for Gene Haas.
Yeah, maybe, but it just it doesn't seem to work, does it? When these companies come in and buy Formula One teams, like they're acquiring another business. It's without that sort of pre-baked like racing like passion or knowledge behind it. It just seems to be like another team that comes in to get passed to something else. Yeah,
your Midlands and your Genie Capitals and that kind of thing. At least with Red Bull buying Jaguar, Red Bull had a sporting and racing history.
Well, it's not even just that. Red Bull was slightly different because Red Bull is like Apple buying a team. They had the money and the resources there to just to hire the right people and go, right, this is going to be a 5-year plan to get this team competitive, and we have the money and resources to do it. It's in the same way.
It's a team that
I was just going to say Stroll's different because the money's there for the resources for Racing Point as well.
I'm pretty certain Dmitry Mazepin is richer than Lawrence Stroll.
Yeah, but I get what Lee's saying.
Yeah,
I totally get what Lee's saying because it's when a known name comes in, like who knows who Genie Capital, Doralton Capital actually are? Like who knew their name before they bought up a Formula One team? Hardly anyone. But if like somebody like like Lee says, like Red Bull. If Google came in and were just like, "Oh, we're going to buy this Formula One team," you'd be like, "Fuck, Google getting in the F1 game, nice." They've got the money to just keep throwing at it. Obviously, that doesn't matter so much with this, cost cap coming in, but you know full well that that's a business that is globally recognized by everyone. I do get what Lee's saying. When a consortium gets together and buys a team, it's a bit like, well, that's great, but how's that actually going to work?
You feel like when something like that happens, like Lotus, for instance, is a good example. Before it ended up being Renault again, you feel that these people that come in and buy these Formula One teams, it's no sooner does the car hit the track than there's a board meeting saying, right, how do we sell this team and make money?
Which is what happened with Midland, because they only owned the team for about 18 months. Because the last season of Jordan, they were owned by Midland. And then by the September of the following year, Spiker had bought them but weren't allowed to change the name. And at least they were a car manufacturer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was only... And then they were heading straight down the dumpster until Vijay Mallya bought them out.
And look how well that went.
That was exactly the observation I was about to make.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was totally the right thing to do.
Yeah, and they had their moments.
When you look back at 2009, when Fisichella finished second at Belgium, you thought maybe that team might be able to do something, and then it never did.
See, the reason I think Lawrence Stroll's different to some of the people we've had before is because even when you see him like in interviews and stuff like that, although not the most engaging of chaps, there's a clear passion for motor racing there that I think exists beyond his son. Even if his son fell out of Formula One, I think Lawrence Stroll would continue to run that team or be a big part of the team. He seems to have the bug, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it seems so when he came into Williams with all the backing, because I think he was doing more than providing the financing for Lance to drive a car, because why else would he have been there in full team kit?
Mm-hmm.
Because he owned it all, I imagine.
Yeah.
I paid for the kit, I might as well wear the kit.
No, I was going to say he happens to own a couple of clothing brands.
Well, this is true.
Talking of Williams, them next. Lee, do you want to cry now?
No, I'm all right. Why?
For George Russell.
I was very sad. I didn't cry.
Yeah,
it was a bit unfortunate, but let's be honest, we ribbed Grosjean when he did it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, planted his foot down too hard, back end let go, Ericsson drives off into the distance. I mean,
the only thing you can say...
The difference with Russell is it's the only real mistake he's made in Formula One.
And he didn't blame Ericsson.
And when Grosjean went and did that, it was after he'd already tried to kill Fernando Alonso.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's not forget that start. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those safety car things. It will happen once or twice a season.
Yeah.
It just happened twice in a race this week, because Albon was just after the restart as well. Although Russell's was during it, or was it?
It was under the safety car. Yeah, I think had he just come in for tyres, or had not come in for tyres, or it was while pit stops were happening.
I think he was trying to warm his tyres, wasn't he? And there's just a change in the tarmac, and it spat him off into the wall. But like Lee says, can you think of another mistake George Russell himself has made in Formula One up to this point?
No.
Not offhand.
No.
Not offhand.
Nothing major.
No. That's his first major error, and it did lead to him not scoring points, because he probably would have finished 9th or 10th.
He might finish 10th. I think he'd have struggled to keep Kimi behind him on new tyres.
Yeah,
so,
possibly.
especially with it being a restart as well, because the gaps weren't there. You know, he had cars behind him, so I don't think points were a given. Whereas they might have been a given without the safety car.
Yeah.
But
When
it
you-
was just
when
a
you look-
shame.
When you look that Latifi finished 11th.
Well,
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Giovinazzi had an all right race. I mean, I know we're not talking about Alpha, but Giovinazzi had an all right race. I think Russell would have been, it was his best chance of scoring a point, and it was him himself who threw that away.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at the times, looking at the lap times before the safety car, and he was around about half a tenth to a tenth quicker than Giovinazzi every lap, running up to there. So I think, I think the possibility for points would have been there. Like you said, with the restart, Kimi was on newer tyres. I think he switched on to softs, didn't he?
But did we not decide that Russell had just put on new tyres?
Yeah, but he was on another set of hards.
I see.
I think he was on hard tyres, yeah.
Which obviously take longer to warm up.
Yeah.
So with Kimi being on softs, that would have given him the advantage straight away. But it's good to see Williams. They're still progressing. We've only got 4 races left this season, but they actually seem to be getting slightly better on a Sunday.
It'll be interesting to see
Are there
what
any
happens
other
next year.
options? Yeah. I mean, it's good that they put their driver lineup to, stop putting speculation around. It's Russell and Latifi. That's what it's going to be for 2021. But is there another option for the rest of this year, realistically, where without shenanigans, Russell or Latifi are going to likely score points?
I don't know, because
Williams can only score points with shenanigans anyway. I don't think they can do it on pace.
Yeah, because last year's car was quick in a straight line, which might have been good for the Bahrain Squoval. But this year's car seems to be a lot draggier and not quite as good in a straight line because we've never seen them topping the speed traps.
No,
that's usually the prerogative of Haas or Alpha. So I think that rules it out. Turkey, very doubtful.
Yeah.
Normal Bahrain, again, can't see it because that's a compromise kind of circuit. And Abu Dhabi, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Shenanigan free, no, I can see them going without.
But look how far they have come, though, that we're talking about both drivers narrowly missing out on the points.
Yeah. I mean, it's positive. It's just they could really do with some points, couldn't they? A couple of points just to end the season. Not being pointless.
Yeah, because that would be their worst ever season. I don't think they've ever done a 0 before, have they?
I want to say a couple of years ago, I think they did.
No, they got points the Sirotkin year, even though they had Sirotkin.
Oh, right, okay. I thought Sirotkin Stroll was a pointless year.
Sirotkin got 1 point, and I think Stroll had a random 6th somewhere or something. He had one of those random races where there's a bit of shenanigans, and he just manages to...
Either Baku or Monza, because they're his favourite tracks.
I think it might have been Monza now that we're talking about it.
We'll move...
Oh, was that when he qualified on the front row?
Very possibly.
Oh, wet Monza. That was his annual... Oh, maybe he is a racing driver race. Right, Alpha next. Giovinazzi in 10th, Kimi in 9th, both of them in for next season.
I'm amazed.
Surprised.
Yeah, that is a surprise. Kimi, not so much of a surprise. Giovinazzi with Ferrari owning all the F2 grid.
Yeah, who's Eilert pissed off all of a sudden? Because I assumed he was going to be the next one up.
Yeah, too soon for Schwartzman. If he'd have won F2 this year, I think he'd have been shipped off to Super Formula or something. But Eilert, I thought, was in with a chance of getting a seat. But yeah, Giovinazzi has been utterly vanilla But he did more than participate.
I said
this
early
week.
doors this. Yeah, I said early on, didn't I, that he needed to put away Kimi Raikkonen, and he has not done that. He just. I can't believe that with all the young drivers that Ferrari have got coming through, especially in F2, when you got like the likes of Schwartzman, Eilert, Schumacher. There are 3 prime drivers there that you may look to put in a Formula One seat. All right, Schumacher might be going to Haas. We don't know. But to stick with Giovinazzi for another year when he's struggled to beat his 41-year-old teammate just seems a bit counterproductive.
Yeah.
You're going to end up with a bottleneck, aren't you? Ferrari drivers that are so talented. You'll have, if you leave it a couple of years, you'll have 3 Ferrari drivers that have won the F2 championship in a row and can't get into Formula One because Giovinazzi.
Yeah, it just seems like they're not using their best resources to the best of their ability, unless they can see something in him that isn't immediately apparent to your average viewer, or in our case, your above average viewer, shall we say?
Are we calling ourselves above average?
Only slightly.
But yeah, I don't get it at all. They've got at least there are 3 drivers in F2 that they could put in, and I don't get if they want they had to get a driver this year into Ferrari and they shopped outside the program. If then what's he doing? What is the point of Giovinazzi?
Yeah. I mean, he didn't make the step up. They chose Carlos Sainz. But don't get me wrong, I can see why Ferrari went for him.
Oh yeah, I think it was the good decision. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Giovinazzi should have that seat instead of Sainz, but if they don't want him in the big car, and they've got kids ready to come in and see that if they might be ready for the big car, don't really get why he's still hanging around. He is the Kvyat.
I was going to say, he's their Kvyat. Is he ever going to progress in the Ferrari organisation beyond a seat at Alpha? Probably not.
Unlikely, unless the Sainz-Leclerc thing goes downhill very rapidly. That is the only reason I think they might be holding on to Giovinazzi, is that they can foresee some problems between Sainz and Leclerc, perhaps as teammates, and they're gambling on it slightly. But if it does go south between the pair of them, maybe they're just waiting on Giovinazzi to fill a seat until they can find another driver.
Which they've already got a few coming up, but could we see Ferrari and the Ferrari Young Driver Programme ending up like the Red Bull meat grinder, where all the good ones never get the Formula One seat, move on to something else?
Also, I think Ferrari have got more problems to worry about than their Young Driver Programme, so I wouldn't mind betting that some of the young drivers get forgotten just simply because of the internal politics going on with Ferrari.
Yeah, but you could say that any year.
Oh yeah, but I mean, we're in an exceptionally odd time for Ferrari at the minute.
Oh yeah, but you could say that any year.
I do find it interesting though that Schumacher looks like he's going to go to Haas instead of Alpha.
Yeah, I thought that too.
I'm just wondering about that. Is it Ferrari trying to rekindle the relationship with Haas? Because there's been rumours over the last few weeks that Haas wouldn't be averse to looking elsewhere for another supplier. Because we were talking a few weeks back about the rumours about them looking at Renault engines for 2022, and ditching Ferrari, and Ferrari just seemed to have remembered. Oh, it's like, yeah, we've got something to do with them as well. We better give them something nice.
Well, they were offered Giovinazzi a couple of years ago when the year that Leclerc was in Sauber. Ferrari said, you can Haas, if you would like this other driver, there he is, and they said, no, we'll stick with Grosjean and Magnussen, which is not a great review of Giovinazzi.
Jesus, what?
No, because Giovinazzi did FP1s that year for Haas. Was that 2017, I think?
Yes, I think so. It was the same year that he did the couple of races for Wehrlein.
Yeah, so 2017. So he was he did some FP1s at Haas. I have a feeling he put Grosjean's car in the wall during an FP1 late in that season.
Save Grosjean the bother of doing it himself.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe Ferrari have found that the Sauber part of Alfa Romeo are maybe a little bit more self-sufficient and difficult to get on with than they were hoping they would be?
Well, they've just extended their deal, haven't they? The day before they announced Raikkonen and Giovinazzi.
Yeah, but that's what I mean, because I found even just the way that was worded was strange, because it was like Sauber extend their deal with Alfa Romeo, and
it's still very much the Sauber team.
Yeah. Whereas when Haas was sort of in bed with Ferrari, it was Haas team, but it was very, very much the Ferrari junior team. It was much closer to a Ferrari Toro Rosso than Alfa Romeo is.
Yeah.
Yeah, even though Grosjean saying one day I'll get the Ferrari drive. How did that go? So yeah, it's an odd one, but I mean a decent performance getting both cars into the points, especially with the struggles that Giovinazzi's had of finishing in the top 15.
But yeah, I mean he starts well, doesn't he? Because is he the only driver to make places up on every first lap this season?
Yeah, but his qualifying is the reason he's usually got places to make up on the opening lap.
You know, this is
what he did qualify last, didn't he?
Yeah.
You know, this is what Stroll was doing last season.
Mm-hmm.
You know, out in Q1 and 14th by the end of lap 1.
Yeah.
And, of course, Giovinazzi was the only driver outside of the top 10 to start on softs this week. So his tyres came in quicker. But, as Kimi proved in Portugal, that Alfa can be quick off the line with his nine-place gain.
Yeah, I think he was on softs as well when a lot of the top 10, I think, had started on mediums.
But, yeah, also, don't get me wrong, I think Kimi Raikkonen's a great Formula 1 driver. I'm surprised to see that his second stint in Formula 1 is now going to be longer than his first stint with this contract extension.
I hadn't quite appreciated that. That is a start.
God. Yeah, you don't think of it like that.
Normally you expect someone to come back and do... Yeah, you expect someone to come back and do, a few years maybe, and then disappear. No, Raikkonen's second stint in Formula 1 after, I think it's at some point next season, he will have done more races in his second stint than his first stint.
Bloody hell.
That's mental.
So do we get Alonso going out for that record from next year, and he's going to be racing until 2040?
Maybe.
Oh, God, no.
Right, where are we next? Racing points. Perez, 6th, looked
pissy afterwards, very very upset with the team.
Yeah, looked like podium could have been on after Max went off before they pitted him.
Should have been on for the podium.
Yeah.
I don't know that they would have, because obviously everybody behind him would have stopped for some tyres, and they would have bunched up anyway, but... they had track position. I don't know why they thought that was a good idea.
Given that there was quite a bit of position swapping behind as well, that could have given him the chance just to get a little bit of a gap while Kvyat and Leclerc were tripping over each other.
And with it being so tight in that midfield championship battle as well between Racing Point, McLaren, Renault, AlphaTauri, Ferrari, every point counts, and they literally threw points away there by pitting Perez. I don't know that he was never going to get any higher than third anyway, realistically. But he was already there, so why they pulled him out of that position to give him a chance at going for it again just seemed very stupid to me.
I mean, next year will be in the Red Bull, so we'll have a chance to go for a podium if Max crashes out.
Do you think Perez?
I'd take Perez over Hülkenberg, but apparently Verstappen likes Hülkenberg.
Also, Ralf Schumacher has said that he is 100% certain that Nico Hülkenberg is the number one candidate at Red Bull.
Ralf Schumacher says is such a disclaimer, though, isn't it?
It's like Simon says, except you don't have to do it.
So, Lance Stroll this weekend then. Begin.
Christ. I mean, what didn't he hit?
Yeah, well,
Top-
every time I think he's just
top
about to start
speed.
looking good.
Yeah. What didn't he hit? Maximum revs.
Yeah.
Because he
He-
lost
to be
his,
fair,
lost his
he
front
didn't-
wing.
He didn't hit those marshals.
That's good,
That's
yes.
a plus.
Yeah.
That's the best thing we can say about him. That's that's not ideal.
Every time I think he's going to be, start to look like a really good racing driver and think, Lance Stroll's doing okay here, he goes and does Lance Stroll things.
I really think that Racing
He
Point...
ruins it for... Yeah, I was just going to say he ruins it for himself more than anything.
Yeah, Racing Point are letting the wrong driver go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, family and money aside, who do you want? The guy that could be on for a podium, or the guy that could have brought out a safety car on the first lap?
Maybe that's the plan. Maybe they're going to Singapore Renault Flavio Briatore crash gate it the whole way through the season, and Vettel will be champion.
Just getting some practice in for next year.
Yeah.
But yeah, Stroll was just bloody useless. You know, it was crap on Saturday in qualifying.
Yep.
It was a liability on Sunday. And I haven't seen any interviews with him, but I assume he thinks he did a good job.
I can't remember
Sorry,
what
the
he
brakes
said
were
after the
cold
race.
for his, hitting his foot.
It was
Like
such a
you said before.
casual apology as well. It was like, oh, sorry about that. You've just sent your
brakes are cold.
mechanic halfway down the pit lane.
Do you remember in his first year in Formula One and behind the safety car at Monaco, he said his brakes were too cold, but then his brakes caught fire.
Yeah.
So what he meant to say was, my brakes were too hot.
Yeah, he's never been great at gauging what's going on with his car, really, has he?
Yeah. Because I can remember we were watching that race and Crofty said to Martin Brundle, how would you go about warming your brakes behind the safety car? And I'm like, you just drive with your foot on the brake pedal. And Martin Brundle basically copied me word for word. As soon as he said it, it's just like, well, if I know how to heat the brakes of a car when you're going slowly, then how does Lance Stroll not know this, despite the fact he's made it to Formula One?
And I think that was the Lance Stroll we saw at the weekend. You know, we often get accused of being unfair on average drivers, but I think in this case it's more than justified, and he was below average.
Yeah, as I say, he keeps almost surprising me and being like, wow, actually Lance Stroll's doing okay. But then he goes and does this. And yeah, I'm sorry, it's just... It isn't good enough.
No, it was a fairly great... You can't just show up for a couple of races. That's what he seems to be doing. He seems to just show up for a couple of races and then just disappear again.
He was the second best Canadian driver in this race.
Yeah. And Latifi lost a lot of practice time as well. Which,
Yeah,
given that they only had
and
one practice, was not ideal, so...
Yeah, and Latifi finished ahead of both Racing Point drivers for next year.
Correct.
Yeah, Williams definitely are on the way back. Right, AlphaTauri. Kind of binary in both ways. Gasly qualified fourth.
Great
Yeah.
performance.
Yeah.
No, great performance by...
Let down by the car. Kvyat didn't have a great qualifying. Great
Kvyat had
race.
his best qualifying in a year.
Oh, he did, didn't he?
Yeah, this
was
should
trying to
have
make
been
the point.
Mexican Grand Prix weekend, and this is the first time he's been in Q3 since last year's Mexican Grand Prix.
Yes, sorry, I was trying to make a point by getting things wrong.
No.
I was gutted for Gasly when they brought him in so early, because he'd been fantastic. Apparently it was a welding issue
Oh. Okay.
that
okay.
that caused the retirement. The car was it was actually seriously screwed. Let me just see if I can find it. Got it.
A welding issue. That
That's-
seems very strange.
Because they had to rebuild his car,
Like
didn't
an
they,
exhaust
last
weld,
week?
perhaps.
Maybe.
Yeah, because they were putting it back together on the grid. Yeah, it was a weld failure that led to a loss of water pressure, so that could have taken the engine with it.
Which they want to keep hold of.
Yes, of course. Yeah, it's a terminal problem, as it was heard by Gasly's engineer on the radio. That is a terminal problem. So yeah, very bad for Gasly. I did worry a little bit for him when I saw. Hang on a second. There's somebody in a blue and white car racing at Imola with a Senna helmet.
Yes, of course, he'd gone for the tribute Senna lid this weekend, hadn't
With
he?
permission from the family, I believe.
Yes, that was an official Senna tribute.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, he's just been announced for next season, which
You don't bin off a race winner if you're AlphaTauri, do you?
yeah, smart move, and he's doing more to pass his audition for Alpine in 2022.
I think that's it, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was gonna say, depending on whether they bin Ocon off earlier because he was a bit pants again, wasn't he? But yeah.
Or if Hamilton doesn't re-sign and Russell goes to Mercedes suddenly realise that we used to have Ocon, so then he ends up in the Williams, and then Gasly can go to Alpine. That's a convoluted thing.
Yeah, but I mean, Gasly's got a 1-year deal, which leads him nicely up to the end of Ocon's contract. And
I really hope he does not wait for a Red Bull drive and gets on it next year with talking to other people.
You've got to think you've got to think they've already been in contact.
You
with
would
him.
hope.
I mean, they're trying to brand themselves as Team France next year. The car's even going to be in the tricolour colours. Mm-hmm. So they're going to want a French driver. They've got one signed already. And
they've got both drivers signed for next year.
Yeah, but they've got a French driver for next year for the first year of the new Alpine branding, and Ocon probably won't last beyond the end of next season.
Let's be fair. The whoever gets the second seat at Renault, if Alonso does well next year, Alonso is going to have a big say in who his teammate is.
Oh, but apparently he's not political anymore.
Of course he isn't.
Yeah.
I don't believe that either.
No, buying a Twix is political now.
Well, it is if you're Alonso. You've got to decide. Do you want the normal one or do you want the peanut butter one?
Oh.
Yeah. And which one out of the two sticks is going to get preference over the other?
The one that gets a Kamoa hat.
We don't have a stick 1 and a stick 2.
Stick 1 to stick 1A.
Are we talking about AlphaTauri?
We were talking about AlphaTauri.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No, I genuinely lost track.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, but the AlphaTauri at the minute, to be fair, is the Gasly show, isn't it?
Well, not this weekend.
Well, no, because Kvyat did a great job. Kvyat, ahead of
the overtake
many
on
drivers.
Leclerc was epic.
Yeah, but it's not going to happen next week. Let's be fair. Or next race, I should say.
Yeah, but I mean, by next race, it'll probably be announced that he's out and Tsunoda's in, because Helmut Marko basically said that. And Marko said he'd done a good job after the race, but it doesn't make any difference to what's happening with him in the future.
Yeah, but one race doesn't make a Formula One driver, and certainly doesn't save a career. Ask Albon. No.
But Kvyat did a really good job this race. He finished ahead of a lot of drivers who you would expect him to finish behind.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't think Marco was out of order with what he was saying. It's maybe. Yeah, but maybe what Red Bull has needed is a bit more honesty when it comes to what they're going to do with the young drivers. So maybe it was a good thing.
Send them to COVID camp. I mean, Marco's not exactly known for being subtle and diplomatic anyway, is he?
It's very true.
No, I quite like it, to be fair. In the ultra polished, far too vanilla world of Formula One, where you get
are you turning into William Story?
No, not necessarily William Story. But when you get somebody like Christian Horner, for instance, which does his best to look like he's everybody's best mate, but secretly, you can't take a word he says as what he actually means. It's nice that at least when Marco, when he says something, it's it might not be what you want to hear, but it's what he means.
Yeah, although I don't know why he just didn't come out and say, Tsunoda's in next season. They actually managed.
Well, because they probably haven't decided who's going to get the drive.
Yeah, if nothing's been signed, then you don't say that, do you?
Yeah.
I mean, don't forget Gasly. Gasly missed a year, didn't he? Because he was told he was going to get the drive, and then went bragging about it, leaked to the press, and they ended up fucking him off to Super Formula for a year as punishment.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Also, don't forget Tsunoda is he's tied in with Honda, isn't he?
Yes.
So I would imagine that that he is a big part of the deal that Red Bull's trying to make to buy all the Honda IP.
Very possibly.
Yeah, but buy the engines, get a free driver.
It's a good deal.
Well, it's not just buying the engines, is it? They want the knowledge.
They want the
everything
blueprint
themselves.
Yeah, I mean this will see Mugen back on the grid if this comes off.
I don't think it'll be that. I think it'll be a completely different branded engine. I don't think you'll see any Honda on it at all.
Well, Mugen's not Honda. Mugen just did work for Honda in the 90s.
Yeah, but I think what you'll find is it'll be Red Bull with their own engine.
Well, no, there's talk of part of the thing that was all over a couple of weeks ago when the rumours first came out that Red Bull were looking at buying the IP, was working in partnership with Mugen, who are also based in Milton Keynes.
Right. Right. Okay.
That's where they built the TT0 bike, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Milton Keynes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. But working with Mugen as part of the tuning setup because of the experience that they've got with Honda. It's like Cosworth didn't used to be part of Ford. It's just that they had that much experience with Ford engines that Cosworth was always associated with Ford.
I don't think we should forget either that Red Bull are the most disappointing team this year.
More so than Ferrari.
Absolutely.
We knew Ferrari were on the slide, didn't we? Because they had their engine banned, whereas Red Bull seemed to be kind of finishing strong last year. Albon was going to be into his second year. And
all the talk. I mean, don't forget, Christian Horner was desperate for to have them race in Australia because he thought that Red Bull were going to take Mercedes on this year.
I think he was also desperate for them to race in Australia because they were planning on lodging something against DAS.
Yeah, that's true.
They were plotting.
Yeah, he'd already written the complaint just as it got cancelled. Mercedes laid one wheel on that circuit during FP1, and he was in the steward's office. Right, what have we got next? We have Ferrari next. Props to Vettel, kept it facing the right way all race.
Yeah, I mean, he only finished as low as he did because they fucked up his pit stop.
Yeah.
Would he have finished ahead of Leclerc without that?
I don't think he'd have finished ahead of Leclerc. I think he may have been in and around the Alphas.
Do you think would that have been? Because when I was looking at it, I was thinking maybe he'd have come out behind Leclerc, and I was wondering whether this was a Ferrari way of just getting him out of the way.
It's how Ferrari go about their business, isn't it? So yeah, I suppose maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, sacrifice points just to keep the drivers separated. I mean, it's the Ferrari up the pit stop.
Yeah.
Decent race from Leclerc though. Even Vettel's saying that he's putting the car in places that it shouldn't be, like in the top 10. But Seb's
he wasn't top 10, but yeah.
Well, no, Leclerc put the car in the top 10. He came fifth.
Leclerc did, yeah.
No, Vettel's saying Leclerc's putting the car in places that it shouldn't be.
I got you. Yeah, Leclerc had a great race. It appears to be the thing this season, doesn't it? That Leclerc is able to... He's like the Alonso in the team, and Vettel is just sort of almost just kind of phoning it in. You know how we were talking about like the disparity between the two drivers at Red Bull? I think you got the same at Ferrari, where Leclerc is obviously still quite motivated, wants to pull the team back to where it was, and whereas Vettel is totally checked out, doesn't actually give a shit, and is literally kind of just being there.
That's going to be one of the most interesting things for me for next year, is whether Vettel's done or going to a different team can like reignite him.
I think it'll be
You
good
mean
for
with the Aston
Vettel
Martin move.
Yeah.
because I think he'll batter Stroll, so I think that'll be quite fun for him.
I'm starting to drift more towards, because I know I've been a bit of a supporter of Vettel, but I'm drifting more towards he's going to be in a bit of bother, because that it's clear that advantage of the Force India, the Racing Point being like the mini Mercedes, that advantage seems to have gone. You know, they just seem to be like with the other mid-grid teams now. Whereas at the beginning of the season, especially when Vettel was talking about joining Aston Martin, it seemed like they were going to be sort of second, third best team when he did. And by next year as well, when all the cars have developed these packages more, and that Mercedes is now a 3-year-old car, I think he might find himself frustrated again.
Possibly. I'm just looking at the championship standings. You know, we often talk about best of the rest. And at the moment, that would be Daniel Ricciardo.
Yeah.
You know, Sebastian Vettel is technically worst of the rest.
Oh, is he proper shit?
Well, you from the bottom of the championship standings, you've got Russell and Latifi on 0 points.
Yeah.
Magnussen and Grosjean have got 1 point, and Grosjean's got 2. Then you got the 2 Alphas on 4 points each. Hulkenberg, who's only done 3 races,
Two races.
Taken part in 3, started 2.
Yeah, Hulkenberg
Crazy.
on 10 points in 15th. Vettel in 14th with 18 points. He hasn't even doubled Hulkenberg's points.
Jesus.
Vettel is behind Kvyat, Ocon, Stroll, Gasly, Albon, Sainz, Norris, Perez, and then Leclerc, Ricciardo, etc.
I just really hope he has just checked out for the season, and we'll see the real Seb back next year.
It could be
True,
as well with Racing Points. Some of their results maybe would have been better if they'd had the continuity of having the drivers for the whole season rather than both of them having the COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah, even though they had Hulkin, who did a good job in their absence, it's not a car he knows at tracks he doesn't know and hasn't driven for a year or so. So having had the regular drivers in maybe would have been better for them.
Possibly. I think Hulkenberg did better at Silverstone than you know he probably had any right to. But yeah.
I mean, Nürburgring. What could that Racing Point have done with a driver who knew it?
Yeah,
and a better grid position.
we
Yeah,
will
because he went
never
from like last
know.
to 8th or something, didn't he?
Yeah.
You know, you could have been looking 4th.
Hulkenberg's better than Stroll.
Where were we? Leclerc, yeah, did well. Overtaken by Kvyat though.
Yeah, Kvyat was on it at that point, though, wasn't he?
Yeah, AlphaTauri and Kvyat had a really good weekend, and Kvyat especially had a really good race.
AlphaTauri as well had done a filming day at Imola a couple of months ago, so had a little bit of data from the track. Not that it would be particularly relevant, but it's a little bit more than anyone else had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And any information's good on the track that hasn't been raced on for 14 years.
Yeah.
Right, we're into the top 3. McLaren, Sainz in 7th, Lando in 8th.
Is that really a top 3?
Yeah,
sort of
I
really
hadn't.
performance?
I suppose it's steady, isn't it?
Yeah, move of the day, Sainz getting out of the way of the spinning Albon.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Also, a teammate overtake of the day as well. Sainz on Norris. That was bloody close.
But fair.
Yeah, it was fair,
yeah.
but it was a strong move by Carlos to strong arm his way past Lando, but retained the position and kept it till the end of the race. Double points finish is kind of where you'd expect McLaren to be, although they seemed kind of happy with 7th and 8th, Whereas, there are other circuits and other races, I think they would have been a little bit, only 7th and 8th. So, it's...
Again, you wouldn't expect a McLaren to be beaten by an AlphaTauri.
But that's the thing. If you look at the
exactly.
teams around them, they're battling with like Renault and Racing Point and AlphaTauri, if we want to throw them into the mix. Yeah, they had a car ahead, but the other car was well off it. McLaren had both cars.
and you say that you wouldn't expect
solid.
an AlphaTauri to be ahead, but I mean, in Italy at at Monza, you had Gasly won the race over Sainz. Sainz wasn't able to catch Gasly at Monza.
Yeah, true. Does well in Italy. AlphaTauri doesn't travel well. Kind of bad for a car. But yeah, we've definitely got the McLaren resurgence now. And I mean, there was no, aside from the, dread to think what those cats are doing. Aside from Sainz nearly getting wiped out in the overtake, it was a case of the pair of them. They seemed to keep the noses clean and just got on with it.
Yeah.
A very Sainz-like performance.
Very much so.
We've always said that's what he's always been best at.
Yeah, Lando wasn't very happy with his qualifying performance. I think he qualified 9th. Thought he could have done better. Thought his last run was rubbish. But I mean, again, another race at another circuit, you would probably think that McLaren would be disappointed with 7th and 8th, but they seem quite happy with 7th and 8th in Imola. So, double points finish when I think the only other team to get double points finish was it Alpha and Mercedes?
Yeah.
So, that's it's an okay return for McLaren.
Definitely. Right, Renault next. Danny Rick with his second podium.
Yeah.
In the yellow car.
Good stuff.
And I'm throwing Ocon forward for the participation award.
Was he doing kind of vaguely all rightish though? Was he sort of lower top 10 when he had his drama?
I can't actually remember.
Because he got rear-ended, didn't he, by Stroll?
Yeah.
On the opening lap.
He was around McLaren's.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he was doing okay. Like he wasn't up with Ricciardo, but I think had he not had his mechanical drama, then he may have been around the points.
But remember, this the Wonder Kid isn't so wonderful, is he?
No,
Esteban Ocon. He's been put in a. Okay, we only saw him before this season in
a Racing Point.
Yeah, a Racing Point, sort of mid-grid Racing Point, and then Manor before that. He's now in like a midfield, like spearing the midfield car, and he's not able to be at the sharp end of the midfield. At any point, can I think, has Ocon been either the lead Renault or, Ocon might get a top 5 here at any race?
And no, I can't think of any.
I'm not entirely sure that he hasn't got like a 6th.
Majorly strong performances.
Yeah. And I defend Esteban Ocon, as you know. I think he deserved a second chance in Formula 1. I think he was good enough to get a second chance in Formula 1, but it's not come to a lot of anything at the moment. It's very disappointing for him. And with Daniel Ricciardo moving to McLaren, and obviously he's going to take some of that Renault knowledge to McLaren with him from the last couple of years, and Alonso being his teammate, I can't see any good things happening for Esteban Ocon in the next year and a half.
Ocon was 5th in Belgium and 6th in Britain.
That was how boring Belgium was. We couldn't even remember what had happened. Because that was the dullest Belgian Grand Prix in ever?
In forever, possibly, yeah.
I think Ocon's best hope for next year is that Alonso teaches him rather than schools him.
I don't know that that's Alonso's style. I mean, he could have done that with Stoffel.
Yeah, I mean, don't forget, this is now meant to be the new nice Alonso.
Is it?
Allegedly.
Still not buying it.
No.
Still not buying it.
Lee?
I think Alonso's always been pretty nice. No, but he wants to. Would you really want a double world champion to come back to Formula One to teach another Formula One driver? I want
not-
Alonso. I want Alonso to come back to Formula One because he wants to win.
Yeah, but they're not.
Yeah.
They're not mutually exclusive, though. You can do both.
When else has it happened?
Hang on a minute.
So it was when Schumacher came back, maybe? I imagine Mercedes were expecting him to be the guy, and for Rosberg.
But no, but I think Rosberg just minced them. I don't think Rosberg learned.
Oh yeah,
anything
I
from
don't think it went how Mercedes were hoping it would go, but I think that's probably
Yeah.
what the plan was. That Schumacher was going to come in, and he was going to win his 8th title, and
I think it depends.
No,
on
I
who
think Schumacher got.
Sorry, go on.
As I said, I think Schumacher got a couple of podiums, didn't he?
he got one.
And a pole position.
Yeah, which he
but-
didn't
but,
actually
he
get
didn't-
because he had a penalty.
Yeah, he didn't actually manage to sit on pole position. But in Rosberg's time at Mercedes with Schumacher, I think he won Mercedes' first race, didn't he, at China? And
I don't
you know,
think that was with
just-
Schumacher though. I think that was once Hamilton had come in.
No, I think that was Schumacher's last year in Formula One when Rosberg won Mercedes' first race. I think.
I get a
But
little
the,
foggy around
um,
that time, I think.
But I think the point I'm making is that Rosberg had already been in Formula One for a few seasons.
Yeah.
And didn't need schooling or teaching or anything really. It was Team Germany.
Yeah.
With the dream 7-time world champion, sort of coming back to spearhead the campaign. Didn't work. Rosberg was better.
Yeah, I think the thing is I don't think it's ever a Formula One driver's job to sort of mentor his teammate.
Bless you.
Because his teammate's his rival. We've always said that that's the first person that a driver judges themselves against. But I think it's up to the driver that's in the team. Do they learn? It's not necessarily you. If you're in the same team as like Sebastian Vettel, for instance, I'm sure Charles Leclerc has learnt stuff through the way Vettel has gone about his business and the way he goes about a weekend. I don't think Sebastian Vettel has sat down with Charles Leclerc and explained things to him. It's you learn by watching, not by sort of a seminar.
Yeah. I think Massa said something similar about when he was Schumacher's teammate at Ferrari as well, was that Schumacher didn't necessarily make a lot of his data available to him or, tell him what he was doing differently with the car, but he could pick up things from being in the same garage and that kind of shit stuff.
And just being with a driver that's being with a better teammate. If you're a good driver, you'll raise your performance up to try and get to that other driver.
Are you listening, Lance Stroll?
Yeah, but I don't see that Esteban Ocon will be able to do that against.
No,
Fernando.
No.
That's my point. I don't think he's the driver to do that. Like I said, I don't think he did enough his first time round to get his seat back.
Please prove me wrong, Esteban Ocon. But I mean, at the same time, it's not looking likely, is it? If he can't put away Ricardo at all, Ricardo's like miles down the road from him.
But you were right. You were right about Rosberg, though. He did win a year before Hamilton came in. It was at Malaysia in 2012.
Was it Malaysia?
It was Malaysia, apparently,
2012?
yes. So there we go.
Close. Right continent.
Yeah, it was the
very
race.
close.
The race
Yes.
before China.
Yeah,
China
that-
was the next race along.
That is
I think.
true. So that leaves
But
Mercedes.
no, excuse me, I'm reading entirely wrong. It was.
It
at
was
China.
China. It was.
Wikipedia and your difficult table.
Right. That leaves Mercedes.
Yeah.
Bottas racing for two teams at once because there was half a Ferrari in the car.
Nice to have a spare.
Is it a
isn't
Ferrari? I mean, they
I mean,
seem
it's
to blame
red, wasn't it?
Ferrari, don't they?
It was.
Could be a Haas wing.
It was a red front wing. They Mercedes have blamed Ferrari. They put an Instagram picture up of the bit that they pulled out of the the radiator.
Yeah, I've seen that. It is unfortunate, but I was wondering because K-Mag went round on the first lap, didn't he? Sort of spun round roughly where they think Bottas picked up the damage, but I don't know that if he lost any parts of his wing or anything. But
it was it was floor damage, and apparently the pit wall didn't believe him at first until he came in for the pit stop.
But Bottas has just got. He's got Webber's luck at the moment, hasn't he? If something can go wrong in that team, it goes wrong with Bottas. It doesn't go wrong with Hamilton. It goes wrong with Bottas.
Even down to the timing of the VSC. Like, that was just insane.
That was a little bit suspect. Now, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I know Lee is. But for the safety car, like literally to come up just as Hamilton was approaching the pit lane, and then for it to end just as Hamilton was leaving the pit lane. It's a bit like, come on, guys, that's almost obvious.
But the FIA are trying to stop him winning.
FIA is against Hamilton. Yeah, they are trying to stop him. Apparently.
No, I mean, talent aside, all the luck on the team is on the Lewis side of the garage.
Totally, yeah.
And, you know, he's made the most of it. Bottas with the Tash, though, he started Movember a little bit early because you weren't meant to actually start growing them till yesterday, not have a fully fledged Burt Reynolds look by yesterday afternoon. And he was doing
honest, I didn't notice.
I didn't notice under the face mask.
Oh yeah, big ginger moustache.
Oh,
and he was doing Movember this year because I looked a prat last year. Lee's internet's died. It's just the three of us. We can say what we want about him. That's why Lee didn't reply about conspiracy theories. His tinfoil tinfoil ran out.
This doesn't work on a podcast, but this is, if you look on the Three Legs Four Wheels website, I put a picture of Vettel in the quotes article from yesterday, and you can see he is missing an end plate.
Ah, okay.
So I think yes,
so
the red bit, as you can see, not complete there, and slightly more substantial that side.
Yes.
Yeah. So the conspiracy theory is that we start talking about conspiracy theories and Lee disappears.
Lee's internet goes done.
Yeah.
Very, very suspect. Very suspect.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, props to Mercedes. We haven't even, I don't think we've even mentioned it slightly at all, but this is the 7th World Championship that they've won in a row as a team. That's insane.
That's never been done before,
yeah.
and we didn't think anyone would beat Ferrari 6.
No, exactly. And the thing is as well, they don't show any signs of slowing, do they? You know, like when Ferrari were just sort of tailing off a little bit, you know, Renault were sort of upcoming. You thought, well, maybe Renault were going to take over. And, you know, McLaren were always there or thereabouts, but never quite strong enough. But there's nobody really anywhere near Mercedes at the moment to be the next team to, you know, look to take that mantle on.
Yeah, unless someone is going to be playing an absolute blinder with the 2020 regs, it's very difficult to see anyone else taking over, really, isn't it?
2022, you mean?
Yeah, I've lost count.
When 2020 happens in 2021 and 2022.
That sounds about right, yes.
I don't even know when they were originally meant to be.
To be honest with you, with Red Bull, and this isn't taken away from Mercedes' success, but with Red Bull looking at taking on the intellectual property of the engines, they've said, look, we're going to need an engine freeze for a few years just so we can get our head around all of this. Who's going to agree to that? Ferrari aren't going to agree to that because they want to improve their engine.
I thought they
Mercedes
had said that
gonna...
I thought they had said engine regs were staying static at least for a little while. Was it 2026? I think they said.
Yeah, but Ferrari are totally redesigning their engine for next year. Red Bull need a full-on freeze, like no development on the engines at all whatsoever until whatever they decide. But
it's
I don't see anybody else agreeing to it.
Yeah, I mean it's 2026 when the next engine overhaul is due to take place.
Yeah.
And, you know, do they go hydrogen by that point? But I'm sure we'll have many, many years of speculation between now and then, assuming that we're still doing this.
Probably not. Yeah,
Well,
probably not hydrogen.
Oh, I was going to say, I thought, what you're saying, probably not still doing this. We've been going. We've been
What
going.
else you got going on a Monday?
Been going 5.5 years. Do you want your Monday nights
Yes.
back? Do you want your Monday nights back or something?
Not just yet. But we'll. I don't think we'll see hydrogen, but I don't know where the next thing comes from. The only thing I can think it's going to come from is Mercedes' own customer. Is if McLaren really dial in this power unit again, taking on Mercedes next year, and then for 2022, they've got, they understand the power unit, they get the aero regs right, they might be able to challenge, but I don't see how Red Bull can, because with that power unit, they're not going to be able to develop it like Honda would be able to, like Mercedes and Ferrari are going to want to be able to.
Oh, no,
So
nowhere even close.
Right?
Yeah, nowhere even close to that. All right, they'll be working with a specialised tuning company, which we assume is going to be Mugen, but it still needs development.
Yeah, absolutely. It's for me, Red Bull is not going to be the way. They're not going to. That's not the right direction for them, and they're not going to be the team to eventually challenge Mercedes, even though they are the closest at the moment. I think when the new regs roll around, McLaren or Ferrari, maybe even if they get everything right, are going to be the next team to challenge Mercedes. So Mercedes, as amazing as it is, winning 7 in a row, the potential is there if they can keep their hunger to go for 8, 9, maybe even 10 in a row. Who knows?
I mean, that is
depending on the driver lineup.
That is a terrifying prospect. I mean, the driver lineup could be a little bit fluid. Bottas obviously is confirmed for next year. Lewis was dropping hints that he might yet retire.
Yeah, he's basically said, because he doesn't know what Toto's doing, that he doesn't know what he's doing. And what the heck is going on in the background there?
You juggling your microphone?
No.
There's a sort of flushing toilet
Don't know what that was.
effect going on. It was discombobulating. But yeah, Toto in his post-race interview with Sky pretty much started by talking about Susie and how much he was hoping she was watching at home, and then went on to say he knows he's got someone in mind who's going to replace him as and when the time comes, and that he's been grooming them. And it very much sounded like he was about to announce he was off. He didn't, but...
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if someone like James Vowles took over, or somebody along, somebody that we already know their name. Put it that way.
It'll just make Valtteri It's James even more meaningful.
Yeah, and I think maybe Lewis is waiting to see what Toto does before making his final decision.
I mean, that's essentially what Lewis has said. Is that he's not signed anything because he doesn't know what's going on with the team next year, and if he's not happy with it, he just won't bother.
I mean, Sky was sort of intimating that they've offered him a 1 year and he wants a multi-year, but they say that every time, and they say that about every driver over 30 that is due to resign.
Well, no, the thing is, as well, when it comes to somebody like Lewis Hamilton, yes, he's 35, and in normal circumstances, I can understand why you would only offer a 35-year-old a rolling 1 year deal, even if they are a multiple world champion. But the thing with the rule change in 2022, Hamilton's going to want to go at that for at least 1 year, maybe 2. And so I can understand why he would want a multi-year deal. Sign me up for another 3 years. That way we don't have to worry about this until the second year of the new regulations, by which time whoever's replacing Toto is well bedded in as the new boss man. And if we're still in a position to win, fantastic. If we're not, then I only have to worry about another year in Formula One before I can retire.
Yeah. It's going to be an interesting one, but all we can do at the moment is just congratulate Mercedes on winning the Constructors' Championship and having this year's World Drivers' Champion because there's only Bottas that can catch Lewis now.
He's not gonna though, is he? Let's be honest.
You know, what was it?
We've still got, is it 4 races left?
Four to go, and Hamilton only needs to score something like...
It's a really token amount, I think.
Something like 12 points in the next 4 races or something like that.
He'll be fine.
He needs to not be outscored by Bottas by 10 points, I think, or 11 points leaving Turkey in a couple of weeks' time.
That's the thing. It's not. I think it's not just that Hamilton only needs about 12 points. I think it's that Bottas needs like 4 race wins with fastest lap.
Yeah. So obviously, the gap for 4 races would be 104 points. I think it's 85 at the moment. So leaving Turkey, obviously, you'd only need the gap to be 78 points. So it's a 7-point deficit, basically. If Hamilton wins the race, if Bottas wins the race and Hamilton finishes second, it doesn't really matter. Even if Bottas gets fastest lap, Hamilton will then only need 1 point from the remaining 3 races to be champion.
Or if Bottas wins the race, Hamilton gets the fastest lap, it's over.
It is, yeah. Anyone else gets the fastest lap, yeah.
Yeah, that is more or less done. I think we'll be celebrating a new world champion in 2 weeks' time.
A new world champion or the same one?
We'll be celebrating a world championship.
The
in 2 weeks'
2020
time.
world champion.
I just got to document that, you know, all as fans of the sport, which is what we all are. Let's be honest, listeners and podcasters alike. We are genuinely watching history like unfold in the sport. Like, this is like all these records that he's breaking, that Lewis Hamilton is breaking, Mercedes are breaking. It might be 20 years till we see them getting broken again, but it might not be. We're always talking about when Schumacher and Ferrari broke these records, that we're thinking, well, I'll never see these broken again. And yet here we are, and they're being broken. So,
it's amazing to watch.
It still amazed me a little bit when Hamilton won the race, and you just saw that bar above the pit lane entry. Lewis Hamilton, 93rd race win. I was just like, how? How has he won 93 races?
By being the best driver in the best car at the time.
Yes, yeah, he has.
You know, that's, and you can't take the talent away from him or any of the teams that he's driven for.
No, absolutely.
Right, I don't think Lee's going to be rejoining us because he's not reappeared, and we've not heard from him since the message saying my internet's done one. So I guess it's
he's not here.
Yeah,
and we've covered all the news as we've gone through the teams, haven't we?
It really just leaves rock stars and wankers for the race review.
I think wanker, Lance Stroll.
Yeah. I wouldn't.
Yes,
wouldn't disagree with that. I'm just going to Discord where people always send a list of rock stars and wankers. Rockstar Lewis Hamilton for the perfect strategy. Danny Rick for maximising his opportunity. Kvyat for nailing the safety car restart.
Yeah,
few good options.
Yeah, wankers. Yeah. Gasly's cooling system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Verstappen's right rear. I'd say the bit of debris that caused Verstappen's right rear rather than the tyre itself. The tyre was merely a passenger.
I'll go with that because I was on for a 9-pointer in my predictions until Verstappen went out.
Yeah. Lance Stroll obviously said that.
Yep.
Ocon's clutch for handing the victory to Hamilton.
Yeah.
It
livened up the race a bit though.
Alex Albon for getting overtaken by most of the midfield and spinning on his own.
Yeah, not good.
Yeah. As I said before, very desperate situation now for Alex Albon. Hard to see where he can go other than out of Formula One, because it doesn't even look like he can drop down to the AlphaTauri team.
Well, no, he's not Pierre Gasly or Yuki Tsunoda, so that is probably what's going to what's going to happen. Right, Lee's not coming back, and I've been sent an emergency shunt.
If Lee does rejoin, he can join in with the guessing.
He can be a shuntee rather than a shunter for once. Thanks to Todd Clark for sending this. This only came through yesterday. Todd Clark in Sydney, Australia.
Do we think Todd Clark has cut off Lee's internet because he wanted to get his shunt on?
Possibly.
Yeah.
There's a conspiracy theory.
This is a conspiracy. Yeah.
Right. Started it properly. That's always good to see. I was born. Can I get a yay?
Yay.
Yes.
In 1928.
Ooh, okay.
In
1928.
Yeah, back in the day.
1928.
So this is someone who is 92?
Or something.
Or something that is 92? Or someone who isn't with us anymore but would be 92?
Right, okay. In the early 1940s, I started a business repairing bicycles, which later progressed to motor vehicle repairs, working in my father's garage until I was 25.
Okay. Sounds like a person.
It does sound like a person, yeah.
Okay, and I served 4 years in the Royal Army.
Ah.
And
The Royal Army.
I will need a guess. I think that's the army.
Yeah, possibly.
I do not know.
Would Sterling Moss be about 92?
I think Sterling Moss was in his late 80s when he died.
Yeah.
He only died a few
So
months
not
ago.
quite.
No. Somebody of a Jack Brabham, maybe? Would that be a little bit too old?
No, that's about right. For I don't know. Brabham was racing in the 60s, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Early 60s.
So, yeah,
could
he'd have
be.
been-
Could
he'd
be
have
about
been-
right for Jack Brabham.
Shall we go with that? And
Yeah.
Okay.
Throw in a Jack Brabham.
Yeah.
Jack Brabham was your first one. Right. I raced in my first motorsport event at the 1955 West African Rally.
Oh.
Right, okay.
Okay. Know it well.
It's probably held in South America these days.
Possible.
I was given my break into F1 by Bernie Eccleston during Bernie's time as owner of the Brabham team, although I never drove for them.
Okay, probably not the Brabham then.
Probably not Jack Brabham, no. So somebody who went into Brabham, somebody who would be 92.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So this is going to be someone who was maybe a little bit older when they came to F1 then, if it was Bernie in charge of Brabham.
I'm thinking not a driver.
Oh, could be, yeah, that's a good point.
You've got,
I'm thinking like a...
you've got another clue before your next guess.
We're having some thoughts, but yeah. Should we go for the next one?
Okay, next clue. My first F1 event was the 1978 Swedish Grand Prix. My inclusion in the event was seen as highly controversial and was met with much hostility.
Okay, so something that was 50. I'm possibly leaning away from person by that phrasing. Although the repairing of bicycles with Dad, or I don't know. I'm very confused.
Yeah, I am.
It's the 78 Swedish Grand Prix. That would make them 50.
Yeah, it would.
Which would be controversial, I suspect.
Yeah, if they were a driver. I don't think we're looking at a driver. I think we're probably looking at a thing or somebody like a race engineer or, mechanic or something who then work their way up through Formula One to do other things. Oh, wait a second. When did Murray Walker start commentating on Formula One?
Murray Walker is 97. I
Right,
believe.
okay, so older than this person.
Older, yeah. This guy is a lot younger than Murray.
There's not many people you can say that about.
Okay. Yeah, strange one.
Do you want to skip this guess?
Yeah, I think so. The 1978 on a Brabham, that would be around about the time of the fan car, wouldn't it, roughly?
Ooh, interesting.
But I don't see how that's got anything to do with fixing bicycles in your dad's garage.
50-year-old bike repairer is a fan?
Yeah,
Maybe.
maybe.
Yeah, I don't have a name, though. Should we?
No, I don't.
Should we
I
just
don't either.
skip and...
Yeah, let's skip the...
Okay. Clue number 7. I suffered burns following an incident which claimed the life of Riccardo Poletti at the Canadian Grand Prix in 1982.
So probably a person. What?
So, who? So we're assuming in 82. Did you say
1982, yes.
92? So not a driver. So who else could be burnt? It would be someone. It would be like a marshal, or it would be someone in the pit crew,
A car.
or a car.
But a car can't repair bicycles in your dad's garage.
Not unless you're doing it in a very strange way.
It's not Lightning McQueen again, by the way. Please don't send that one in anymore.
Wait, it's not fucking Herbie, is it?
Oh Christ! Well-known bicycle repairist Herbie.
Next clue.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, my period of involvement in F1 spanned 26 years.
So their first one was 1978. So they went through to 2004.
What?
So in 2004, this entity would have been... This is fucking stretching my bloody maths now. 76?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. Which is about the right time for somebody you would expect to retire.
Yeah, it's going to be some sort of like... It's going to be like a team founder or...
Wait, hang on. Would it be someone like Rory Byrne? Is he that old?
Did Rory Byrne get burned?
I don't know. But Rory Byrne was responsible for designing the Benettons that Schumacher won championships in. And then he was part of the dream team that moved with Ross Brawn to Ferrari. And he was old then.
Ah.
So I don't know if he was like... Yeah, man, would he be 92 now? That's crazy. I think it might be Rory Byrne.
Okay.
We have two more clues and a spaffer.
Okay. This is
Okay.
hopeful.
Okay. In 2002, I received an OBE and later received the FIA Academy Gold Medal for Motorsport, amongst many other decorations.
Right.
That doesn't really help.
No.
I don't know about these awards.
I know Adrian Newey has got an OBE, but he's nowhere near that old.
Some of his cars are.
Yeah.
Clue number 10.
Yes.
I have published several
Yes.
F1 themed books, including Beyond the Limit, Life at the Limit, Triumph and Tragedy in Formula One.
These all ring a bell. But I don't know who they are.
Morris Hamilton?
Oh, would it be Sid Watkins?
You know what? It could well be Sid Watkins.
Because he would have been burned
Yeah.
if someone was burned in a crash, because he'd have been in there.
Correct, yeah.
He stopped doing F1 but carried on doing doctoring for a little while into the late noughties, because he treated Manx cyclist Johnny Ballis when he had a moped crash in sort of 2008, 2009-ish.
Correct, yeah.
So 2004 would be about the right kind of time.
I think you might have got that there, Sean, with Sid Watkins.
Are you guessing, or do you want the spaffer?
It's up to you, Sean.
I'm I don't know how confident or not I am. Shall we take a spaffer?
For a half point, I think it's worth it.
Yeah, I think we'll go for the half.
Okay, yes, spaffer. I am credited with vast contributions to F1 safety, including helping to save the lives of many drivers, including Gerhard Berger, Martin Donnelly, Eric Comas, Rubens Barrichello, Carl Wendlinger, and Mika Hakkinen.
I think we've got it.
Yeah, I think you got it. I think it's Sid Watkins, yeah.
Yes, I think
you
we'll
gonna
go
ask-
for it.
You going to ask the question?
Are you Professor Sid Watkins?
I am Professor Sid Watkins.
Yay.
Yeah,
Very good, Sean. Well done.
That
Nice
was
one.
Nicely
dredged
done.
from somewhere.
Thanks to Todd Clark from Sydney, Australia, for sending that one through. If you want to send a total shunt in, normally you would send it to Lee, so you can send it in a direct message on Twitter or on Instagram to @ATotalShunt. Or if you want to send an emergency one through to me in case Lee's internet goes down or he gets beamed up by UFOs or something like has probably happened
We can't
tonight.
guarantee that's not what's gone on.
That is true. Maybe a UFO's beamed his internet up.
Very strange that we were talking conspiracy theories and Lee hasn't come back.
Is it strange or is there a reason?
Is that what he wants us to think? You can email it to...
Occam's razor, do your best.
You can email it to 3legs4wheels@gmail.com. You can also get hold of us at 3legs4wheels on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. And individually on Twitter we are...
At Sean Cowper.
At Flood21.
And at Pablo100. If you want to hear the other show that we do every week, the Patreon show, which is not really F1 related and apparently includes acoustic cover versions done by various members of the team. Chris is about to record one, and I'm getting one picked for me for the future, and I'm already beginning to regret suggesting that. If you go to patreon.com/3legs4wheels,
Yeah, and you don't get to hear them unless you're Patreons.
yeah, you don't get to hear what they are unless you're a Patreon.
Yeah.
Can we say who yours is by at least?
You can say who the original artist is, I suppose.
Yeah, so Chris will be recording a Britney Spears song, and I will be doing something that has yet to be decided. But go to patreon.com/3legs4wheels. You can donate anything from $1 a month upwards, and all the money goes to keeping the show together, buying the cables. I've just bought some new ones, by the way. Buying the microphones, and, importantly, buying the podcasting biscuits, because you cannot podcast without biscuits.
This is very true. Fox's Viennese fingers this
tonight.
week for us.
As what used to be advertised on the side of Jordan King's car in F2, if I remember rightly. Right, we'll be back next week. We'll be previewing the...
No, there is that.
We'll be previewing the return of the Turkish Grand Prix and any other news that pops up during the week. Hit us up on the socials. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Oh, no, that's YouTube. We're not doing that at the minute, are we? And if you want to join us on Discord, the link's on the website, 3legs4wheels.com. Yeah, there's always chat going on, variety of games, an RI Racing season which continues unabated. I've even scored points now. So I'm happy and I'm not quitting. Right, we'll see you next week. There may be 4 of us, there may be 5 of us. Who bloody knows at the minute? And whatever you do, stay safe. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.